buildings are for the public, all members of the public. And that, of course, includes those disabled people who have special problems arising either from impaired movement, sight, or hearing. They have problems of access. Disabilities obviously vary in degree. Take Bob, for instance. Thanks to Clive, his helper, Bob manages to get about more than most people confined to a wheelchair. But Bob still relies on his wheelchair for moving about, and this presents problems.
What sometimes happens with flagstones, especially at night, is that one of the casters goes down a crack or a hole. Clive, pushing from behind, in all good faith, doesn't know about it. The result is that I shoot straight out of the front. And it's not only with wheelchairs. Just think of the hazard to someone whose sight is failing. How simple things would be here if only there was a lowered kerb. More comfortable for me, and so much easier for Clive. Shopping is obviously a problem. I can't get to most shops unless Clive pushes me. Nearly all of them seem to have either steps or escalators, which I simply can't use. Some chains of shops, and many of the bigger stores are all right. They're at pavement level and the doors are wide enough. But what people like me look for are more lifts or ramps. A lot of thought goes into designing special vehicles for people who are disabled. I only wish a bit more thought was given to their eventual use, like where and how these vehicles are to be parked. Getting in and out of one's car is just as difficult for others as it is for people like me. And this one makes no provision whatever for disabled people, whether drivers or passengers. A disabled person's car needs the width of at least 3 meters. Much as I'd like to see this film, it's out of the question. There's no ramp up into the cinema, and once inside, there'll be more steps to negotiate. With so many conversions being made to cinemas nowadays, as well as other public buildings, no thought seems to be given to the problems of access for disabled people. When actual reconstruction is being undertaken, I wish they'd spare a thought for us. After all, it's not that difficult. Ramps taking the place of steps, with handrails to help those who cannot walk very well, or for those whose sight is limited. The majority of disabled people can be helped enormously by providing things like grab rails in and out of buildings. They also want smooth surfaces on floors and even on the walls, for the blind don't want to come across unguarded holes, cars parked carelessly, unexpected bollards which they can't see, or even unexpected drainage culverts underfoot. If you can't see easily, you can be helped enormously by such things as plenty of color contrast between walls and doors, by signs that are large enough to be easily readable, and floor texture contrast, which will indicate floor level changes. At London's Royal Festival Hall, they really have considered the needs of disabled people. Look at this parking, lengthwise on, no question of anyone jamming you, and it's easy to get out. A lowered kerb with doors wide enough and contrasting frames around the doors to help the partially sighted. Ideal surfaces inside for wheelchairs and lifts with lovely wide doors. Now here's the unisex loo. Easy to push doors, enough space to transfer from my chair, but much more important, essential space at the side of the loo pan itself to help me slide laterally from my chair. These bars, which are provided, are very handy, and lever handles are much easier to use if your hands are stiff. And I can easily reach the towel. A comforting thought, there's even an emergency bell. Finally, to prove they really thought it out, In the auditorium itself, there's adequate space to accommodate those in wheelchairs.
The Royal Festival Hall is an excellent example of a public building custom built with all these sorts of amenities in mind. Companies, shops, local authorities and architects can all provide more help with just a small amount of money and a little forethought. For more information about access to